Once upon a time, there was a farmer who lived with his wife. Every morning he spoke to his wife, and the wife said, "Good morning, I can already feel the baby moving." They were very much in love, that farmer and his wife. Every day he turned on his TV to see what was on. On the 17th, the weather report news the delicious hour and life on the farm. "Here's tomorrow's weather forecast. Expect a comfortable, balmy winter day," said the weather lady. "Day 17 of winter. The lake freezes over," said the news reporter before he turned it over. Life on a farm he had seen last year, so the farmer did not watch it. "If it's Tuesday, then it's time for a delicious hour. In this cooking program, I, your host, Naru, introduce a new dish every week. Today's dish is roasted potatoes. Ingredients: sweet potatoes, stone, utensils, oven. You can also add sugar and salt to taste if you like. Ton 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 ding. Finished. Let's give it a taste. Much. Delicious. See you next week," said the cooking program that was on every Tuesday. The farmer also lived with his dog, although his dog did like to disappear. "Tommy," he would call, and then he would find him hiding behind the wall. The farmer was also a poet, and he was very impressed with how that rhymed. He picked up his dog and whistled to him every single day, before fetching his ball from the cupboard, which he then threw for the dog, so that the dog would become very smart. Of course, there was no need for this. The dog was already as smart as he was, because the dog was a very accomplished winner at races. After he played with the ball, he put the ball back into the cupboard before he stands in front of his table before starting the farmer's journal. Begin. It was the 17th of winter of year 2. It was a Tuesday. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and the weather outside was nice, is what he would say when he did the farmer's journal. So what did he tell those people on the 17th of winter? He said that today they were going to be making sushi. And apart from that, he wasn't going to do much else, because it was a winter day, and winter days were long and boring. The first thing he did was to make some sushi, although he did think that he needed some sort of rice, which he did not own at that time. He was quickly looking at his little app on his app-enabled smartphone to see if he needed to have rice to make sushi. He did think he did, because it does sound like something you would need. And it was true, he did need some rice balls. Very well, so he left it there, and then went to go and see his basket to check on what was happening outside. He travelled outside of his door to discover that the weather was nice, but there was plenty of snow on the floor to stop him from working on the field. He checked his postbox to find out that nothing had come. It was very sad, because no one ever sent him messages. Very, very rarely, at least, anyway. He harvested some honey in winter, and he did not know how that was possible, but it was. He then went into his glass TARDIS to see if his things that he was growing had grown. He saw that his sweet potatoes were starting to grow a lot faster. He decided to water them this day, because they needed a lot of watering. Because they did need to grow up big and strong so that he could sell them later on to make some money. That is how he watered, just like that. He picked up his basket and then left the house. Or this wasn't the house, this was his glass TARDIS, because it looks bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. He then went down past a fish lake which had frozen over, containing all of his fish inside. He then went into his chicken coop to see if his chickens were okay. "Good morning," he would say. He would then pick up a chicken and call it by name. "Flappy, how are you today?" is what he would say. Plenty of eggs were laid by the chickens over the night. He decided to pick them up. One by one, he placed them into his rucksack. He could carry 9, but there was 10. So what would he do? He decided to only carry a few, and then turn them into mayonnaise, using the mayonnaise maker that was located over in the corner of his coop. He placed the eggs in, and out came the mayonnaise. What was he going to do with this mayonnaise, you may ask? He was going to sell it to make some money. This is how this farmer made his living. He decided to put them back in the basket now that he had created a few, and then he decided to pick up the rest of the eggs to make more of them. "Quiet," he said to his chickens, who were making a lot of noise. Then he picked up a chicken and had called it by name. "Nick, the little chicken, what are you doing over here?" Of course, this was a rhetorical question, because he knew the chicken would not answer. He decided to pick up the last few remaining eggs and turn them into mayonnaise, because again, that is how he made a living. The chickens were very angry that he was stealing their eggs, or maybe they weren't, we couldn't tell, because we don't speak chicken. He then decided to feed these chickens so that they would lay eggs for the next day, because if this farmer forgot to feed the chickens, he would not get an egg for his tea on the next day. Of course, sometimes he did run out of feed, and this farmer was praying that he did not accidentally run out of feed. He placed the feed inside of the boxes to feed his little chickens. He knew all of them by name, but for purposes of time, he will not be recalling them all right now. He went over to his chicken feed, because he did not have any chicken feed left. I apologise, I misread that book. He placed his basket of stuff into the shipping bin so that he could make his living and his money. He looked around one more time to discover that he had indeed finished taking care of the chickens. He then left the chicken coop to go up to the mountain. What was on top of the mountain, you may ask? Well, you're about to find out, because this story is taking you up there. He left the farm and decided to go up the hill to the hot spring, where he, with his trusty mithril axe, he decided to chop down the stumps. Why did he do this? Was this a public service after he had committed a crime? Was this just some sort of way to stop people from tripping over them? No, in reality, he just wanted to collect its wood so that he could make a fence around his farm. He then left to go up to the top of Mother's Peak, where he would soon discover that Gotts, the woodcutter, was there. He did not speak to him because he did not have time. He ran straight on past and decided to go into the winter mine, which lay across the lake which had frozen over. The farmer exited the mine after digging all of the food and minerals that he wanted. When he said food, he didn't mean food. He was just overly tired. He took the minerals that he had collected from the mine and was going to sell them, again, to make a living, because this game, or this story, was all about making money. He took his collected items into the chicken barn, where he would sell them inside of the shipping bin, but of course he would not get the money until 5 o'clock this evening. He placed his beer basket inside the shipping bin like he did earlier to sell his items. It was now completely empty. Now what was he going to do? He had to go and get some rice balls so he could make some sushi, but what else was he going to do? He decided that he was going to put his basket outside of the barn, which contained his cows and sheep, and he was going to use that later. First step was now to go and to give gifts to people around the world. And by world, he meant his whole world, his wife. But actually, what he meant to say was around the village. He also realised that the shop was closed today, so he could not go and get some rice balls. So what was he going to do? He couldn't make his sushi, so he decided he would do it tomorrow, because he was doing nothing tomorrow. At least he thought. Which was true, because he checked his phone. He's now going to go and give gifts to people in the town. He decided that he should complete 2 days in this storybook, which is what he was going to do. He went to the winery so he could give a gift to Manna, who lived there. He went inside of the room and saw Manna sitting over in the corner. She decided to move. We don't know why she moved, but she did. He gave her a fish. "Oh, thank you. Do you always give gifts to other villagers like this? If so, you should give gifts to everybody. Strange rumours might spread if you only give gifts to the pretty girls," is what she said. "Though I don't think that would happen to you anyway. Thank you. I love this," she asked inquisitively. He also spoke to the lady. "Well, if it isn't JD, are you out shopping? Is there something you want to buy from us today?" "No," was his answer. "If there is anything you want to buy, just ask, okay," is what she replied. He then left Manna sitting on her own, while her prison warden, her husband, patrolled the streets outside. He then decided to go and give bread to Louis, the man who lived with Gotts, who we saw earlier in this tale. He decided to go back through his farm so that he can get to Gotts' cabin very easily. Although he did remember that the Louis was not back until 11 o'clock, so he would have to wait for about an hour. He decided that was going to be okay, because there was not much else to do today, because of course it is winter, and there is not much to do in winter. He entered the site where Got's cabin was located. He tried the door. It is locked, is what he thought to himself. He decided to run around the house outside. And then he remembered that last time he became super stealthy and decided to hide next to the house. No one would see him here, because he was completely and utterly invisible in the shadows. Gotts returned home, and that meant that Louis was now inside. The farmer went inside to discover that he was indeed there. Why he did not open the door before Gotts got back, we don't know. He must have been locked in. Perhaps he is just a figment of Gotts's imagination that everyone else can see. "Oh great, I love this," is what he said when Louis was received the air bread. "Oh hi, thanks to you, I'm making rapid progress in my research now," is what he said when the farmer talked to Louis. The farmer then left Gotts and Louis to fend for themselves. And then the farmer tried to figure out what to do next. He could not go to town because the shop was closed, so he could not buy his rice or give gifts to the harvest sprites that lived in town. He decided he should go and finish making his fence, which he started to a couple of episodes back. He picked out the wood from the woodshed and put it in his rucksack. When he was cutting down the trees earlier, this is what went into the woodshed. Little stumps, which the farmer is now going to be used on his farm. He also remembered that some planks can be destroyed, but so far he could not see anything. The time was 12 o'clock because he heard the church bell ring. The only thing was now, was he going to have enough footage to take up the time for the day, or was he going to become so bored that he didn't know what to do anymore? He believed that he could finish his wall if he was lucky, and of course this farmer was lucky. He went back to the woodshed to get some more wood because he had run out of the wood in his rucksack. He did not know how much he needed, but he figured a whole rucksack would be enough to at least get him a little bit more. He continued to pile the wood in his rucksack. It was becoming rather heavy, but he did not mind because he was a strong farmer. He continued walking across his wooden snowy field, which used to contain grass, and still did, just hidden beneath the surface. When spring comes and the melts of the snow is melted, he would see the grass once again. Then he would realise that he still has a few more bags of seeds that he needs to plant. But of course, that would have to happen in spring. He saw that he needed at least a few more pieces of wood, so he returned to the woodshed to collect his next little bit of lumber. He did not need 9, but he could not remember how much he needed, so he decided to take a full rucksack just in case. He also decided that he might need to fix the fence, even though he hasn't seen any broken stumps yet. He thought he would check now while he was looking, and saw that nothing was broken. He then went down to where he ended with his wooden fence, and continued to finish the fence. And with that one, that was his last fence. We can now see that it has now been completed. He has a little wooden fence that covers around the meadow, which is where his grass will grow. He decided to have a quick look at his map, so he could marvel in what he had accomplished. He saw that it was a perfect square. Maybe not perfect, but definitely perfecter than everything else. Or at least more perfect than his vocabulary, because that is definitely not a word. But oh well, he said to himself, as he continued to go forward, where he decided that it was time to go fishing, which he did on his own. Some time had passed since the farmer was last talking to you, but he returned now with a monkey on his head. This was actually his wife, because his wife was a shapeshifter. He took his wife monkey into the house and said, "There you are, Ellie." She was happy because she had now returned home. He decided that he had nothing inside his bags, so he don't know why he was looking, but he did. He then proceeded to the bedroom, where he saw that his wife had already returned to bed after turning back into normal form. "Good night, Ellie," the farmer said to his wife. "Good night, darling. You did good today," is what she replied. The farmer went to his diary and decided to make a diary entry and then to sleep. "Dear diary, today I was telling a tale of winter." From Farmer JD. A brand new day was available to the farmer if he chose to carry on with the rest of his life. And he did, for this farmer witnessed his wife in human form and his wife in monkey form. What did this mean? He did not know. He tried to work out what the possibilities could be. Perhaps this monkey was the cousin or nephew of Ellie, which would have meant me, which would make me a monkey's uncle. He decided that that was the case. This was Ellie's cousin. Sorry, this was Ellie's nephew, which makes me a monkey's uncle. Indeed, that is what the story says, and that is what the story will be. The farmer decided to talk to his wife yet again. "Hello, Ellie. Good morning. I can already feel the baby moving inside," is what she said, just like every other day. She failed to mention that her nephew was jumping at the walls. But it did not matter, because the nephew would be gone by the end of the day. He decided to check the TV. He saw that it was the same old things as yesterday, except for the song hour. "Here's to Mother's weather forecast. There will be snow. Bundle up so you don't catch a cold," is what the weather lady said. The news was probably the same as yesterday, so technically it wasn't new news. Life on a farm was the same as last year, so he did not look at it. "Another week has passed, and it is time once again for the song hour. Today's guest is Item. Let's hear the song. Tools used on animals, part 2. Medicine for animals. You can cure sick animals with this, but they can be used as a preventive of healthy ones. Cow miracle potion. Let's get a large cow pregnant. It won't work on calves and young cows, nor on cows that are already pregnant or sick. And of course not on sheep. Sheep miracle potion. This gets a sheep pregnant. It won't work on lambs or young sheep. No sheep. These are already pregnant or sick, and for some reason not on sheep that have just been sheared, and of course not on cows. Now we know how to use these tools for animals, thank you very much, is what the song hour said. The farmer looked at the TV, then at his wife, then at his wife's nephew, and he decided that the song hour was a little silly. Of course, now it was that task of finding the hot dog, who was hidden behind the wall yet again. "No, Tommy," the farmer said, "don't chase my little nephew." But again, the dog did. The farmer continued to go and get a ball from the cupboard, so that again he could train his dog, who does not need the training. But still, he did it. Why not? Because he did. The dog picked up the ball and was going to bring it to the farmer with a little bit of help from that farmer. He then put the ball inside of the basket and then proceeded to continue with the ongoing novel within a novel called The Farmer's Journal. Begin. This day is the 18th of winter, year 2. It was a Wednesday. It was 6 o'clock in the morning if you did not know at that time, and the weather outside was delightful. And this is what the Farmer's Journal said. The farmer proceeded to tell whoever was reading his journal that on this day, the 18th, he would be making some sushi, because yesterday he did not have rice balls, and today he was going to go into town and buy some rice balls, at least one, and he was going to give gifts to the little harvest sprites that lived by the church. That was cute, he said to himself. Ellie's nephew was walking with Ellie, and that's what happened. He then proceeded to go outside, for he needed to check on what was happening on that day. He saw that outside It was his basket, which he left there last night. He decided to check his post box, although he knew that nothing has come. He then proceeded to go and get honey from his honey tree, although he knew that that tree was not going to give him anything else other than honey. It would have been nice if it gave him some sort of item, but it did not. It was only honey. He still tried to work out how the bees were getting honey, even though there were no plants to get nectar from, and he was pretty sure that bees cannot survive in winter. He tried to work out if bees hibernated, but he could not remember. He remembered that he had not seen a bee in winter, but he remembered that bees must do something. The farmer visited the store so that he could buy what he needed to buy. He wanted to get some flour. Flour is used for baking sweets. It costs 50G. Want to buy some? Said the shopkeep. The farmer purchased one. Thank you very much, the shopkeep said. He then continued to talk while the farmer was collecting what he needed. He was collecting flour so that he could befriend the harvest sprites. They were very close to being maxed out with their affection levels, but he needed to push it a bit more, just so it goes over the edge. He placed more flour into his rucksack. More and more it went. It was 1, then it was 2, then it was 3. He, of course, had lots and lots of flour to use to give to them, because he had a lot of money. His dream of becoming a millionaire was soon becoming a reality. As you can tell, he had 700,000, which was an awful lot of money, although that soon would go down if he continued to break the things that he bought. He put more into his rucksack. He had so much more to go. Into his rucksack it went, after the shopkeeper said his few words. It was used for baking sweets, but he wasn't using it for sweets. He was using it to bribe certain creatures. Surely he must be done by now, you all might be asking. We are not sure. I've not been counting. So I'm just a simple narrator. Of course, now he is done. He was now taking his precious flour to the harvest sprites who lived by the church. He passed the doctor on his way. He did not say hello, because the doctor tried to take Ellie away from him, so he did not thank him. He wondered why the harvest sprites lived next door to the church. It seems like the church would be fond of burning mythological creatures, but then he remembered that this isn't God. This is the harvest goddess, which might like the harvest sprites. The harvest sprites might be her disciples, but of course, we could never know. The farmer checked on his Facebook status how many he had to befriend. He had to befriend Timid, Hoagie, Stayed, Bold, and Aqua. So we didn't have to do the 2 red ones. I say 2 red ones because one of them is orange, which is an offshoot of red. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much! Badoom, said one harvest sprite. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, said the other harvest sprite, with no badoom. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, badoom, said Aqua. Thank you very much, badoom, said the one that I like to call Purple Cookies. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, said the one that was green. The farmer then checked to see how well the affection boosts were being made. He noticed the only one left was Timid. He was excited because he was standing right in front of Timid. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, badoom, said Timid. He then checked again and discovered that all of the harvest sprites were now fully maxed out with their affections. He decided that he had 3 left, which he decided to give to Blue Guy. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, badoom. Orange Guy. No, he did not. The Yellow Guy. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, badoom. And Timid, because Timid sounds quite scared. Yippee, yahoo, thank you very much, badoom. And the farmer revelled because of the fact that he had befriended all of the harvest sprites. For the farmer, this meant that in spring he could get tea leaves so he could make a cup of tea to win the cooking festival. He was excited, for this device, this little concoction, was his most beloved thing. He said goodbye to the harvest sprites in their own way by saying badoom. He bowed once and then once again and left. It was time for the farmer to make the sushi that he's been trying to make for 2 days. "You can use rice balls for your cooking, or you can eat them straight. They cost 100 G a piece. Want to buy some?" The farmers agreed to these terms and conditions. "Thank you very much," said the shopkeep in a remarkably different accent. Perhaps the farmer was just tired and didn't realise that the voice of the shopkeep was different. The farmer then continued to walk through town, going past all the houses that he has visited before. He passed the library, he was about to pass the winery, before finally passing the blacksmith, who he would see very shortly. He went on to his farm by climbing up the stairs. He could see his farming mansion right there and proceeded to enter inside. He entered inside of his house through the front door. He then went over to the kitchen. He passed his wife, who had now said goodbye to her nephew, who had left. If you remember, he was the monkey. He decided to cook a dish. Please wait. Try cooking something new is what he decided to do. And now it's time for him to create sushi. He read on his ton 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 ding was the sound that made him very happy when he was cooking. And he cooked up a new dish, and he decided to write up a recipe. He double-checked to make sure this was sushi. It was sushi. He did not need to keep the sushi, so he decided to give it to his wife to see what she thought. "Thank you," said Ellie, who was the farmer's wife. He was very happy that she liked this, because the other day he made omelette, and Ellie, his wife, did not like omelette. He then decided that it was time to do something else, but he did not know what, because of course it was very late in the episode. He decided that he could go and see his horse, for he had not seen his horse since yesterday. He walked up to the stable and went inside to see how his horse was doing. "Hello, young shadow," he said to his horse. His horse did not reply. His horse lost all talking ability when he grew up. We don't know why. Perhaps only talkable horses are ponies. He rode his horse long and hard. He decided to even go outside, because why not? Horse needed a bit of fresh air. He'd been stuck in the stable for a very long time. He was patrolling his field to see if any of the fences had been broken. He saw that his fences were fine, and then decided to continue with the race, to practice for the horse race next year. He raced past the lake, tried to jump this shipping bin, but it did not work. He then returned the horse to the stable, where he patted him down, gave him a sugar cube, and walked away. More time had passed, and the farmer had come to the end of his day. He decided to take hold of his basket, which he left on his bridge, and decided to walk forward towards his home. He did not do much fishing, although he did get a few fishing things from yesterday and from the 18th, which was today. He walked inside of his house and put his basket down on the floor. He saw that his dog was sleeping right in the place where he does the farmer's journal. Perhaps the dog does work at night. Perhaps he does not. He is just a guard dog, is what the farmer said to himself. He then decided that he had a few more minutes to kill before he could finish this tale of winter, and he decided to sort of outline what was going to happen in his future. He contemplated that he had done most, if not all, of the required cooking that he wanted to do this season, so he decided that tomorrow he was going to work on getting something in his rucksack upgraded. And he also decided that he should probably go and purchase some rice balls to put in the fridge, since he always has the problem of never having any rice balls in the fridge. But of course all that happened, or will happen in the future. The farmer was now very tired and decided to go to sleep. He said goodnight to his wife for one last time. "Good night, darling. You did good today." and then decided to write into his book. Make a diary entry, then sleep, he said to himself. Dear diary, today I finished my tale of winter. From Farmer JD.